Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Math Made Easy with Terry in 10 minutes. So we're going to talk about the complete the square method now, which is the third method. So we've talked about using the formula. We talked about in the previous video factorization. So I talked about the common factors. I talked about how to use the quadratic formula to factorize. I talked about trinomials when a is equal to 1. When a is not equal to 1, I also talked about the difference of two squares. But now we're going to use the third method now, which is called the complete the square method. All right. So first method was the formula. Second method was the factorization. And the third method now is the complete the square method. This is one of the most important of all, okay? In fact, the formula was derived from this. So I'm not going to talk about how that was derived, but I'm going to try to give an overview of the complete the square method in this video. Also, if by now you've not subscribed, I don't know what you're waiting for. As you can see, we have loads of videos that's always coming out, and we also have loads of concepts that students are asking for me to make videos on. So you can see now we have the complete the square method, and I'm going to go straight right into it. So now just a quick reminder, I told you that quadratic equation is ax squared plus bx plus c. So if you've been following this series, you should have gotten tired of me saying this because A is always the quadratic coefficient, B is the linear coefficient, and C is the free term. Now, the completing the square method is used for converting quadratic expression to a form of vertex form. Is what we call the ax plus d squared. So that means we are going to have this quadratic expression, and we're going to convert it into a vertex form, which is the ax plus d squared plus e. Is that okay? So we're going to convert this into this form. All right. Then we're going to use this as well to find the roots and then solve quadratic equation. All right. So for those that are writing, that make it taking notes as well, because I'm aware that some students use the video to take notes. So I'm going to write this on the board. So the complete the square method, the square method. All right. So this method is used, okay, for converting, all right? So we use this method for converting quadratic expression So we use this method for converting quadratic expressions of the form. So the normal form you know, which is the ax squared plus bx plus c. So we're using this to convert this form to the vertex form, all right? So this is what we call the vertex form. I'm going to talk about the vertex very soon, okay? But this is the general expression of the vertex form. So you're going to convert ax squared plus bx plus c to this. So, and also, we also use this as well to find the roots or solving quadratic equation, sorry, as well as finding the roots. So we're going to use this to find the roots. Some textbook call it finding the roots, or you can say solving. You can say solving the quadratic equation. Okay. All right. So here we can convert an equation into a perfect squared. All right. It's possible. There's so many things we can do. Now, one of the questions I've always gotten from students is, why do we have to do completing the square method? Is it that important? Why can't I just stick to the formula method because the formula method is way easier? Or why can't I stick to factorization method for questions I can factorize? All right. So because of that, I'm going to spend the next 2 minutes or 3 minutes to explain why the completing the square method is important. All right. So why the complete the square method is important. So why do we have to do this? Why do I have to know this? All right. So the first thing is that we use this to show the vertex. This is very obvious. So this shows us the vertex. So when we talk about vertex very soon, you will see that when you solve you convert the general expression of quadratic equation to the vertex form. You need to do it using the complete the square method, all right? So this shows us the vertex form. That's number one. So in case you want to solve questions that have vertex, so for instance, you want to sketch, for instance, you want to know the turning point and stuff like that, you need to use the complete the square method. Number two, it is also easier to solve when the quadratic equation is part of a larger question, because in some cases, the quadratic equation is just a part of a bigger question. So complete the square method is always the easiest way to go around it. So it's easier to solve. So when the general expression, so that means when the ax squared plus bx plus c is part, all right? So when this now is part of a larger question, all right? So that means part of a larger question, all right? So when it's part of a larger question, it's very important that you use the completing the square method. Now, also, one of the things, like I said in the previous slide, or the blackboard, or the whiteboard, I beg your pardon, is that the quadratic formula was derived from this. So that means the formula that you like so much, the minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a was derived from this, okay? So the quadratic formula, okay, the quadratic formula was derived, okay? The quadratic formula was derived using the completing the square method. Okay? So another one as well is that usually, we talked about factorization, where I talked about when a is equal to 1, when a is not equal to 1, common factors, difference of 2 squared. But in some cases, the factorization method or even the formula might fail, okay? So especially when we talk about complex numbers or in some cases like that. So the formula cannot really give you the direct answer that you need. The completing the square method is the only way. So basically, the completing the square method is the universal method. So that means you can never go wrong with the completing the square method. Is that okay? So no matter how stressful or how big the numbers is, or how big the coefficient is that you want to factorize, you're not really sure, and you don't know the product pairs that you're going to multiply, that will give you C, and you add that will give you B, don't know what to do. Completing the square method is always the easiest one. So even when factorization of formula method fails, the completing the square method is the only way. So when factorization, okay, of the formula method, okay, formula method in some cases fails, okay. So this formula method fails, all right. They complete the square method. Is the only way. Okay, so basically we can say hence a universal tool, okay? So we can say a universal tool for solving any quadratic equation. So it's very important to know that. So and also later we're going to talk about how do we know the maximum and the minimum values, okay? The complete square method, we can use it to analyze points on a quadratic expression that has a maximum or minimum value. Is that okay? So we can now use this to analyze maximum and minimum values. So you can use this to analyze which points on a quadratic equation curve will be the maximum or the minimum. So So analyzing at which points. All right. The quadratic equation. Or in some cases, the expressions, okay, has at a maximum or minimum what? Point. You know the maximum or minimum values for that. Is that okay? So it's similar to the vertex, all right? It's similar to the vertex, okay? And number 6, you use the completing the square method. Why it's so important as well is that you also use this to also graph or sketch, okay? So use it to graph. So basically, I prefer sketching, all right? So usually we talk about sketching very soon in this series. So if you want to sketch, so how do you want to sketch a quadratic function? Okay, you need to complete the square method. So the quadratic function. And number 7, when you're done with that, so similar to all other methods, it is used for solving a quadratic equation just like a formula. Okay? So it's used for solving, so to find the roots or find the roots. Okay? Of a quadratic equation. So as you can see, it's very important for you to know this because we're going to spend a lot of time explaining the concept of completing the square method, and these are the 7 reasons why you should know them. All right, so we're going to discuss several ways of doing it. So please, it's important. I know that most students prefer the factorization method or the formula method because it's easier, but it is very impertinent and very important that you understand the complete the square method, okay, very well, because you're going to use it to solve several types of questions. All right. Okay, so these are the reasons why. So let's move on. So we now know the 7 reasons why we need to do that. So I'm going to talk about how to solve them here. So, but there are 3 things. I'm going to break this into 3 smaller videos. So remember, I said I always use one concept per video so that it will not be too much or too bulky. See? So I'm going to talk about how do you do completing the square when a is equal to 1. So remember, ax squared plus bx plus c. So that means in an example when you have x squared plus 5x plus 6. How do you use completing the square method to solve this question? Then we're going to talk about how do you do completing the square method when a is not equal to 1. So for instance, you have minus 2x squared plus 4x plus 2. How do you do this? Okay, how are you going to do this? How are you going to solve this question? So in this case, a is not equal to 1. A is minus 2. And then I'm going to show you the formula method. So the formula method in doing the completing the square, which is similar to the method we've talked about earlier. All right. So I'm going to start with the first one. How do you complete the square when a is equal to 1? So in the next video, I'm going to go straight to that. We're going to talk about when a is equal to 1, how do we solve that? And like I said, if you have any question and you don't understand, please drop me an email, or it's a particular concept you want me to explain again. You can drop me an email, or you can ask me to make a video on a particular topic that will be helpful for you. You can also drop me an email and I'll get back to you. Is that okay? So I'm going to see you in the next video. I'm going to start with the first one. How do you complete the square when a is equal to 1? And like I always say, if you've not subscribed, you have to, and click the notification bell. So when I post a new video, you'll be the first person to know. All right, so I'm going to see you. I'll see you in the next video.